Hello there, dear loving soul. Are you feeling fear? Are you feeling fearful right now? Is that why you clicked on the title of this video? Because you're feeling the stress or anxiety, or perhaps you're feeling a little bit short of breath. You're feeling fearful about something, aren't you? There's a lot to be fearful about. There's physical dangers out there. There's a lot of psychological threats and trauma that you may have experienced in the past. You might be worried about a loved one, a health-related issue perhaps. Or the cost of living crisis might get you down and you're worried about the stability of your job, your career, or money. Perhaps when's the next food going to come from for your family and for yourself? Or do you have an anxiety disorder, something that you may have struggled your whole life with, and it's just upped its level to make you feel fearful, or like chronic fear even? Are you fearful because you've just scrolled through your media, social media, or say a newspaper app, or you were listening to the news, be that on TV or on the radio, and you're hearing about all the the physical things that are happening around planet Earth at the moment? There's a huge amounts of climate change related issues that are being experienced by the whole entire world, be that heat waves or flooding, right? The complete extremes. Likewise, if you are on the news, you'll have heard of all the international conflicts that are occurring. The political economic climate is hostile at this point in time, causing all sorts of issues on every single part of this world, including the country that you're living in. Not to mention, to be fearful about all the local things that your community might be experiencing at the moment. Now, are you fearful for your life? Are you fearful more on like a spiritual level, that your life might not be having the meaning that it used to have? Or you're wondering about where your life is heading, and you're actually fearful for that future. Your fear of the uncertainty, the fear you don't know where the path is leading you to, and whether you will be ultimately fulfilled. Now, there's a lot to be fearful for, and I'm kind of glad that you are fearful at this point in time, because the truth is, you wouldn't have otherwise clicked on this video, and you wouldn't have become aware of the fact that you are actually fearful. But congratulations, you're actually seeking a way out. You're seeking how to deal with your fear. And in this channel, we talk about universal laws and practicing love. And I am a true believer that through practicing love, you can actually turn your whole world upside down. And in fact, if more people practice love, we'd be living in a completely different place. The planet Earth would be completely different, and every single individual would be a more joyous, happy individual. And so one way, on the subject topic of being fearful, one way to deal with that is to practice love. And in part 2 of this video series, we will definitely be talking about some practical tips as to how we can apply the universal laws and how we can actually practice love through thinking, speaking, and doing love. How can we tackle fear together? Because the truth is, fear is actually a protective mechanism, right? So if we talk about the first universal law I wanted to discuss today on the subject of, being fearful, it's to do with your body, right? And the universal law is that when we're living on planet Earth, we are incarnated into our body, a physical matter, right? In order to be able to experience the life here on planet Earth. And part of our design is that the fear, or all the emotions actually there for a reason, but since we're on the subject of fear, it's actually a protective mechanism. If you think about it, back in the day, when individuals were, living in caves or living in forests, and, we're thinking about a long time ago, if there was a predator of some sort, be that a big bear coming out of the forest from the bushes, or a lion if you're on the safari or in Asia, or wherever you might be, right? That the element of fear is what got you up and running, right? Because you were fearful for your life, for your security, for the well-being of your family, of your tribe, your community. So fear is actually a protective mechanism and instilled within our body, with the physical body that we incarnate into. And related to that is the universal law that everything is energy, right? Because ultimately everything is made up of atoms, and atoms have a variety of tiny little particles themselves, and everything is in continuous movement. It's going. It's very hard to believe this, I know, especially when you look at all the objects around you. But everything is actually constantly moving. It's in continuous movement. And that kind of movement is what generates energy, and energy transforms from one state to another. And in fact, it might be very difficult to think about this, that your emotions or your sensations or feelings could be energy. But if we believe that everything is actually made up of energy, then it makes sense. It makes logical sense, right? That our feelings are emotions, and the feeling of fear in particular is also energy. Energy that comes in, and it can likewise be released. It can just move on. And we'll talk about some of the practical ways to actually deal with energy of fear, to make sure we release it into the world. Because if you think about it for a second, say you were startled by a car that just drove by near you, or it honked, really loud into your ear, or you were about to touch something hot, or your loved one, or say your child was about to touch something hot. You get that sensation of fear that just comes on instantly. But then as soon as something is over, right, it takes you a couple of seconds to process it. It just sort of releases. So all of a sudden the energy comes in and it washes out. It comes in and it washes out. And that's what we're going to try and do through the practice of love in part 2, and the practical tips about thinking love, speaking love, and doing love, to actually encourage the flow of the fear, honor it and release it. Honor it and release it, so that you do not get into a chronic state of fear, which will actually impact on your daily life, how you feel, what you do, how you think, and your general well-being of your routine, your life, your family relationships at work, etc. will be impacted if you do not release the fear in a manageable and appropriate manner. And the last thing I want to talk about is the duality, right? The universal law. There's, on planet Earth, this thing about duality. There's day and night, black and white. There's opposites, female, male energy. There's just this duality of things. And I think it is therefore by design. I think we're going through a school of planet Earth where it's effectively the illusion of the inside world and the outside world, or the duality of things, is being able to experience two sides of the coin. And we go through these lifetimes, incarnation after incarnation, experiencing the different sides of the coin, effectively. And if you think about the feeling of fear, and it's a protective mechanism there by design, as I just mentioned before. Think about the opposite of it, right? Think about the opposite of feeling fear. Write it down below. Comment down below F for feeling fear, or write down a word in the comments below. What is the opposite of fear? Just pause for a second, comment down below. What's the opposite of fear? How would you feel? I'll give you a second whilst I sip my coffee. You're welcome to get a cup of coffee yourself, by the way, or a glass of water or tea or whatever your beverage is. So you've written it down below. F for fear, or a word for an opposite of the feeling of fear. How would you want to feel? So here's something I had on my list. And bear with me. Might want to feel the following: confidence, relaxed, courageous, content or happy, safe, physical safety. You might want to feel tranquility, or having a peace of mind. Optimistic, you want to feel encouraged or euphoric, that ultimate bliss, happiness. You want to feel assured and positive, ultimately positive. Is that something you had on your mind, or did you write it down below in the comments below? So stepping back for a moment, right, and realizing that the physical body that you were born into, and you decided to incarnate into the specific body that you chose, and it's got all these amazing things in it by design, including the feeling and sensation of fear, in order to actually protect you. But because you're feeling fearful, or you might be feeling fearful on a regular basis, on a constant basis, and you're not able to shake it. You are wanting to feel some of these wonderful things I mentioned, like feeling content, relaxed, tranquil, like you have a peace of mind. Whatever it is that is causing your fear needs to be addressed. Why? Because in my point of view, in my observation anyway, when you address the fear, you actually come on the other side of it, right? You don't just ignore it. You don't just let it slip by and hope for the best that it's just going to go away by itself. Because remember, it's energy. If it's kind of made its way into your body where you're at, it's in your mind, it's in your physical body, you might be feeling a variety of sensations, then it's kind of an imperative for you to deal with it and address it. Because the truth is, you want to be coming out on the other side of it when the fear is on it and it's released into the atmosphere, into the universe, back it goes somewhere else. Bringing in the new energy of confidence, tranquility, euphoria, contentment, fun, joy, happiness. Now, how might I do that, you might ask? Good question. Now, the power of love, there's a reason for it, and that's what we do on this channel. We talk about the power of love, and the more you practice it, the more you will get it back. That's how we're going together to tackle fear, okay? And so if we think about it for a moment, I think the best thing we can do is just pause right there, because we're going to jump into part 2, where we talk about those practical aspects, okay? So click in the description below for part 2, and I will see you shortly, where we talk about some practicalities. What are some meaningful things you can do in order to start tackling the feeling of fear in your life at this point in time? Stay tuned, click on the link below to part 2. See you shortly.